Okay, so in second page, we're looking at a proof written by Yennefer about a possible argument that she sees in the image and what she's trying to prove. And then as they're going through, her best friend Vanessa notices a few mistakes that Yennefer made in her reasoning. So we're going to go through and look at, do we notice these errors? So first it says OVEL is a quadrilateral with the following things true. So OV is congruent to EL. This is one of my givens. And then it also says LO is congruent to VE. This is my second given. Then we also notice that by the reflexive property, this side is equal to itself. And then we can say that the triangles are congruent by side, side, side. So here's side 1, here's side 2, here's side 3. So far, so good in the proof. I kind of agree with everything she's saying. And then we're going to start to see some issues pop up. Now that we showed the triangles are congruent, we can say that this set of angles is congruent and this set of angles is congruent. So let's go mark them. We're saying that the set of angles ELV and OVL are congruent. Okay, well, those are alternate interior angles, but that's not why we should be saying that this is congruent yet. And same thing over here, these two, EVL and OLV, those two we can now say are congruent, but the reason for row 3 is wrong. So here for number 3, it says Vanessa said Yennefer used the wrong justifications in row 3. Identify the mistake and explain why they are incorrect. And so all we're doing is critiquing this proof. So we're going to say Yennefer proved the triangles are congruent. So now she can say all their parts are congruent by CPCTC. But instead of using that, she said alternate interior angle theorem. Which can only be used after you have parallel lines. So the mistake that she made is by saying alternate interior angle theorem instead of CPCTC. Next, Vanessa noticed another incorrect justification in row 4. So looking at the two reasons that we can now say EL is parallel to OV and EV is parallel to LO, one of those two reasons is correct and one of them is incorrect. What do you think? Well, the correct one is called converse of alternate interior angle theorem, and the incorrect one is this definition of parallelogram. So in row 4, we're going to say the first justification should have been the same as the other box. Since we know the angles are congruent by CPCTC from the previous bubbles, we can now use the converse of alternate interior angle theorem and say both opposite sides are parallel. So I want to explain really quick what converse means. In most of our proofs, we were given parallel lines and we knew that that led to alternate interior angles. But in this proof, we find the alternate interior angles from CPCTC, and that leads us to say that they are parallel. Going backwards like this is called the converse. And that's why this one is the converse of alternate interior angle theorem and not the forwards direction. It's actually the backwards direction. Finally, after discussing the errors, Yennefer realized she made an error in her last conclusion as well. Identify the mistake. So now we can say that it's a parallelogram because the opposite sides are congruent. Meaning way back up here in the beginning, that's what Yennefer was thinking. If opposite sides of a quadrilateral are congruent, then the quadrilateral is a parallelogram. Well, if that's what she was trying to show, she should not have done all this work on proving parallel by alternate interior angles. So basically, the reason of how she was originally going to go about this, it didn't lead to that conclusion from the work. So we would have to use a different reason here. It's a parallelogram because opposite sides are parallel. That's what we just showed. We just showed we have two sets of parallel lines. We did not show that we have two sets of congruent lines. And so again, we're going to go here and say Yennefer did the whole proof showing that two sets of lines are parallel, not congruent. So with the work she showed, she would use the justification opposite sides are parallel is the reason that it's a parallelogram instead of opposite sides are congruent. So when I go back up here to look at this proof, how would I quickly make these changes? Right here, this would become CPCTC. This becomes CPCTC. This becomes the same as this right here. And this becomes opposite sides are parallel here. And that's it. Those are the corrections we made to her proof.